Kennedy School, Member of the Parliament. He will be representative of Young Voice today and to show how the power of youth can empower ASEAN. Last but not least, I'd like to invite Dr. William Sabanda, Special Envoy of the... Kun Pitha, you are representative of Young Voice of ASEAN. You are a member of the Parliament of Thailand. And I can see here that young people in Indonesia know you a lot. They come to ask to take photo with you. But for ASEAN, especially young people, probably ASEAN appear as old-fashioned club still. So what would you reckon as a young voice? What should be one or two simple steps of ASEAN to be, hey, for young people that ASEAN is finally okay for us?
2 steps. One is relevancy. Second is credibility. To build up on Pak Dino's presentation on centrality and unity. That's our past achievement. But going forward, relevancy and credibility of ASEAN is the most important thing that you can connect with the disconnected youth and the perception of elite-driven ASEAN. When I won the election, when I won the election back in 2023, 2023 was the year that a lot of ASEAN leaders started to become young. Lee Hsien Loong becomes Lawrence Wong, Duterte becomes Marcos, and things like that. So we became young in 2023. I was sitting in a room with a foreign policy advocate, Fuwadi Pitsuwan, which is the son of the late section of ASEAN. I was asking him, what's the ASEAN quick wins? If I were the Prime Minister, and if I were to meet Lawrence Wong and Marcos and President Prabowo and things like that, the 5 founding members of ASEAN, let's come up with ASEAN quick wins that are highly relevant to the youth and comparatively low resistance. I came up with 3. What keeps ASEAN youth awake at night? That is common throughout the 10 countries. 1, Clean Air Accord. The transboundary haze that affects majority of the countries in ASEAN. Yes, some relatively resistance from agricultural companies, but if we work with them, the quality of the air in Jakarta, in Bangkok, and things like that. In Singapore, they have their own Clean Air Act. In Thailand, we're about to pass a Clean Air Act. But if it's from our neighboring countries burning agricultural crops, there's no boundary for clean air, right? Second, cybersecurity, how to combat scam operation. It affects you in Singapore, in Brunei, in Bangkok, in Jakarta, and that's something that it's an institutional quick win, an ASEAN quick win for us. And third is task force on Coast Guard maritime, something that we stick together in times of when the hedging space is shrinking, but the rising friction in maritime is happening in various countries. These are the quick wins that you turn communique into concrete actions, and then you become relevant again. Credibility, the second thing. Maybe it's time that we turn the 5-point consensus into a 5-year roadmap on the situation in Myanmar, showing that we understand humanitarian without interfering in sovereignty of another country. Time to reform the secretariat with the budget, with the mandate that is more than what it has been in the past. Because we want to be able to see ASEAN in the next 60 years as centrality, unity, relevancy, and credibility. And that's when ASEAN matters to the youth.
Thank you, Kun Pitha. That's 5 points of relevancy of ASEAN to the youth. Let me move on to Dr. Sabanda. Your question about what's the possibility of having ASEAN Parliament?
I think I can take 2 questions at the same time that is related to youth. To your question, sir, yes and no. and I'm not being a politician here, I'm being Singaporean, I'm being pragmatic. Yes, if substance over form. No, if form over substance. So when I was inside the parliament, there's three forms, three assemblies that you can participate. One is called IPU, International Parliamentarian Union in Geneva. Second is IPA, is Asia Pacific related. ASEAN Parliamentarian for Human Rights. That's on top of my head. Three forms, three assemblies that you can actually, relate or talk to people from PAP or Workers' Party or from any other ASEAN countries. But I feel like if you want it to matter and deliver results with some KPI as per the gentleman's question, it has to be substance over form, meaning you really have to think about concrete steps of what you are trying to accomplish for your meeting as young parliamentarians. If it's really about being the big goal of being a responsible middle power, amid the great power rivalry, coming October 26 to 28, President Trump is coming to ASEAN Summit. And if you think about connectivity, if you think about environment and climate change, then quantify it. I mean, if you're talking about connectivity, and we talk about rail all the time, rail transportation as a mode of transportation for logistics and stuff like that. Per 100,000 kilometers in Europe, there's a rail coverage of 40 kilometers. That's how you measure connectivity and also the coverage. In ASEAN is 11. So Europe 40, ASEAN 11. So if you are parliamentarians passing laws trying to improve connectivity and transportation, make it half of Europe, make it 20 within 2045 or something like that. So if it's concrete, it's relevant, that's something that the youth will realize that being part of ASEAN has more benefit rather than the cost of being one.
Thank you. Donors cut the budget, like the example of US aid in Thailand. What's your recommendation for the youth in working to be more having access or for organization to provide more funding to civil society, or how should they work to be more self-reliant, to be sustainable?
Two things I've seen, micro and macro. Micro is that I've seen a lot of CSO in Thailand have become more efficient through technology, through a lot of use of artificial intelligence, through a lot of comparative best practices from one another. Second, macro, I'm starting to see the Asian way, the Asian human rights definition. We started to see that democracy and human rights is not just a foreign import, it's a lived experience. So we are starting to see a lot coming from East Asia, Japan, South Korea, Taiwan also, and also from ASEAN neighbors like Indonesia coming to Thailand and things like that, to fill up that vacuum. Because you have to understand this is Asia in the world with no rules. When other parts of the world are too divided or too distracted, Asia must step up. And that's how you manage to survive these important times. 2,700 kilometers along the border of Myanmar, 700 along with the Cambodians. So without any Western leadership during this tough time, it's a vacuum. So definitely people have to work smarter, and Asia within our own collective effort must also step up.
So it means CSO in ASEAN have to attract funding from other organizations or from funder in the region.
And also become lean themselves. They also have to be a lean management of CSO. So you might have to work with half of the fund that you get. But because of the new technology that is coming up, the ability to partner with one another, so you could synergize and survive this tough time. But I understand for the fact that there are some assistance coming within the Asia, not just from the outside, because you mentioned USAID, for example. So a lot of people are stepping up.
Yes. Thank you very much.
วันนี้ขอประกาศต่อหน้าทุกท่านในที่นี้ว่าเวลา ของพวกเราได้มาถึงแล้ว
ฝากกดไลค์ กดแชร์ กดติดตามและกดกระดิ่งให้ด้วยนะครับ